Chof Adar Rishon, Atavshin Samech Ches, Hemshech Samech Vav, page Kuf Nun Aleph.
Right, so just a brief word. We need to sort of bring out a point before we go further, which has got to do with the remarks I just made when I get to the Rebbe Rashab and the tremendous pace gaining that there was in the Gilui of Chassidus al Yodei, until the Friedrich Rebbe said that his father was the Rambam of Teres Chassidus. If we look carefully here, we notice that there's a stress on the union of what we call mahus, to come to know essence of Inyan. Now, normally speaking, in inverted commas, normal people rightfully of the impression that in most things, even in things that we understand in Gashmiyas, you can't really have hasogas hamahus. You can't really come to recognition or understanding of the essence of something. We can only know about its being there, which is called matzius. And in that kufa we can know, mahus hamatziyah. We can know what do we know in a more essential way. But in the very essence of the thing itself, it's very difficult for the limited mind, even in its higher koiches, in its higher echelons. Well, if it's going to cause a whole bilbul of das, maybe somebody should pick it up. It's generally we're careful to use the word mahus. It's not something, and if it is used in Chassidus, it's used as a sort of a very elevated matara, a goal, but not necessarily an achieved thing. And here we notice on several occasions in this particular Maimah where we're learning now, and also hinted at in other previous Maimorim, when I get to the Inyan Atainu, for example, and things, that the Rebbe talks about mahus, and he mentions Riyah of Chochmah, taking and experiencing the inyan from mahus, and then even in reference to Hakora Sadas, which he said was on a slightly lower level than Riyah Chochmah, we learned that in the previous Shio. He also said that the Hakora is in the inyan from mahus Elikus. And if we look carefully in the whole Drush, he even said beneged to the Hasogas HaShlila. In the usage of Hasogas HaShlila, he said you can also come through the Hasogas HaShlila to a Hakora b'mahus dova haniflo. Now, normally in Chassidus it said that the Hakora from Hasogas HaShlila can tell you about the oifan of the hafloa. You can get some appreciation of the manner and the way that Elikus is mufla from oilamas. But it's rare that we should say that you come to a realization of the dova haniflo itself, which is Elikus, how it's higher than the oilamas. That's the dova haniflo here. That you can come to Hakora in the mahus. That's very rare. That should be written. Even though normally in Das, where it's dealing with nearer goals, then we do say that Das takes things mitzadeh mahus. Being as it is, that Das is this concept of Hakora, and we saw that Hakora means profound, like inner recognition and knowledge, mitzad the essence of the moyah, not just the ability of the moyah to appreciate things. So normally speaking, we say that Ein Hanami, Das is in the union from mahus hadora, and it's a Hakora in the mahus hadora. But to say that the union for Das can take you to Hakoras mahus from Elikus, which is l'mayla mi'oilamas legamri, al yidei hasogas hashlila, but hasogas hashlila is not really hasoga, it's really teaching you so what you don't know, what you can't be mazik. Here we see that the Rebbe uses expressions which I couldn't say that they're impossible, but they're very unusual in the stress through the usage of Chassidic concepts in the right way. You can come to mahus, and he keeps stressing. You know the expression mahus here, and mahus through hakora, and mahus through the union of Riyah de Chochma. But that's so what I should suggest. This is, as I say in Yiddish, the Arumreden Dominion, just to talk about it, almost his father's, not necessarily the direct feed over of a Shia. We could say that this is indicatory of the tremendously elevated air in which this hemshech was set. Even though at that time in Russia and the cloud, the matzav of Yidden, the difficulties of the whole historical and economical and other such situations that were going on in Russia, it was a very difficult time. And there was even pogroms and things that occurred around about this time. In Russia, things were very, very difficult. And yet, nonetheless, here we have in this little village way over in White Russia, and we have this unbelievable oil shining out, talking about being a gift for Melech HaMashiach, and that Hina Mashiach Bo, and that the people got to prepare themselves to be Chayolik based David. They've got to go out and fight the war and make sure that this is achieved. With all the taksisei, all the strategies of war and effort, and at the same time the goals and what you might call the stakes at game are very, very high. Mahus halakus. I mean, that's what we see here. The Rebbe keeps using this word mahus in a very relaxed way, as much as say, oh yeah, I mean, don't say that mahus is out of your aim. But that would tend to indicate the movement of Chassidus Chabad towards its ultimate goal, dahainu, to bring the Gilui of Liyosid. And Liyosid is very close now. It's no longer Liyosid, but it's now. That's what the Rebbe changed the whole movement. Instead of saying Liyosid, you say now. And that, what are we going to be massing Liyosid now? What are we going to be massing Mahus? That's written. That's a big change which will occur. And it also won't occur with a flip of the finger. There also going to be massing Mahus. Now gradually the Hasoga will alter and will become so profound. And the whole elevation of all the elements will be so immense that we'll gradually become used to Hasogas Hamahus Elakus until Hasogas Hamahus in very high Madregas, and so we can suggest that that's the movement into the whole atmosphere of Melech HaMashiach through this amazing hemshech. We can see that the Rebbe begins to talk about a reachable goal on part of so-called ordinary people. Now, why would I say that? Because in a short while around, I don't know if we're going to reach it this evening, the Rebbe is going to say that even those who haven't got this Riyah de Chochma with all the flamers that he writes here, but even if they don't reach that, but they can approximate to this and to that, he keeps making it possible for the so-called ordinary man, in inverted commas, and not necessarily a Beinani with the whole shlemus of the Beinani, but the so-called rank and file, chosid, as you might use an expression, can and is urged and is expected to reach within his aims in Yonim for Husarakus. It's a pele. I mean, the more you look in the expressions used here in this Maimah, and Beklal we saw earlier in the whole in the Tainug, Achmiya, Poshut, and all these different formulae of the different Kiluyim in Tainug, and the Rebbe talks about them in a very straightforward way. So yes, this is the time that you can come to, and you're going to have it soon, because take it from Yad Mamish, that's going to be the Iskalas of the Etzamatayna Raposhut. So that it seems to me that we've got to realize that in this Hemshech and similar to it, we're moving across the bridge from Hasogas Elokus into what you might call Riyas Mahus Elokus, as much as it's possible, Oid Bismana HaGolus, but realizing that the Golus is falling away, and we're moving into a tremendously new era of the Sinyan Mahus. Therefore, it's really mind-boggling. If just on that page with Kuf Nun where we're holding, look at the number of times that he mentions the word Mahus, and you'll see that it's quite a few times that the word Mahus, both in reference to Riyah de Chochma and in reference to Akora, occurs, and he doesn't just mean, a nice metaphorical statement. That's the pshat in the simple Emshech of the Loshen, that he means Mahus. We're going to experience it for now to have, first of all, a Hakora, and then he said Hakora is a lower level because it's still connected with the power of the mind. It's the Seichel. Ilu Chokmah is already not the mind anymore. Chokmah is the highest point of the mind, which wasn't meant to be mind, it was meant to be observance, and there you can actually see it clearly, as it were, the Inyan which is aimed at, the Hainu, Elakus, and in that Gufa, the Inyan from Mahus, just like here, but Pashas, when you see something with your eyes, you see the Mahus. I mean, your eyes rest on, and they feed back to you, the Mahus Adar. So that was just a brief observation that I think needs to be made, and it sort of gives us and therefore that whole bracket we learned the difference between the Hakora of Das, which is a very high Madrega, and the union of Riyah de Chochmah. It's very interesting that the Rebbe leaves Das as a union of Moyach, albeit a tremendously important essential level in Moyach, and he said it's still the union for Negiyas HaSeichel, Ve'ilu Riyah de Chochmah, that's another union. That's observance, mamish, and he keeps calling it Yisamtus. Now, if you look, you'll notice also in these pages many times the word Yisamtus. Now, that means from the word emes, but we pointed out that it's like taking the noun emes and turning it into a reflexive verb, which means not only you realize that there is emes, but you live emes. Yisamtus means that the emes havaya li'olam, as we say in Hallel, emes havaya li'olam, in the olam you can see the emes of the Shem Havaya, the amitis, the Shem Ha'etzim, because that reflects back at you, and you become a living part of the truth. It's that you see truth, or you know that there is truth, and you're moided to truth. Hisamtus, there's one of these A-T-I-O-N nouns, it's one of the Ashons of English, but I don't know how to translate it, but it's got an Ashon at the end, which means that it's an absolute noun. It's a conceptual thing, that you become a living dogma of truth. Not that you just know there's truth, not that you accept truth, but you live your being the truth. And so that can only be when you see it, because you can't really say that a person lives the whole truth of something until he's seen it, as it were. When I even take away the as it were, if he's seen it, then for sure he lives it as a living truth. And you'll say to him, what are you up to? And he said, well, I saw it. I saw it with my eyes. No way that this can ever be shaken. And therefore it's called Hisamtus. So there we are. That is that was by way of Fabrengen. Now we'll maybe learn a little bit. But I think that it's very necessary to make that observation. And there's really a lot more to be said about it, but due to certain physical limitations which I'm undergoing at the moment, therefore we just have to be satisfied with that for the moment. Always it calls there, it doesn't matter whether we're talking the Akora Badas after the brackets, whether we're talking the Akora Sadas, or whether we're talking in the Riyah de Chochmah. All of these inyonim come through the effort and the struggle on the part of the Adam himself. Now he puts in brackets another fascinating inyan. This living and experiencing in the etzem self, and being a living example of that truth, is borloi pisoim milmaita. So I'm saying that all this comes through Yigiyah. So the Rebbe said, well, the truth is that it could be that this is Samtus, and the truth is that it does really come to you from above. It's given to you. Not only does it come, but it comes pisoim. It comes suddenly. The word pisoim means suddenly. So now, that I say I didn't reach something suddenly, then I can tell you that I reach it through my efforts. But something which comes pisoim, that involves two concepts. It involves up to that pisoim, up to that moment of suddenness, you were aware that you didn't have it. And then all of a sudden there's a moment where you become aware that you did have it. So that's like an extreme change from one matzav or situation to a trait to another. And my mother said that that's a pure arrive. It can happen, suddenly. Well, that's a pure arrive that it comes mil maila. And therefore he said it can happen suddenly. But aval zehu alidei ha'inyan yes. He said it comes through the inyan of the seichel. In other words, even though, I'm sorry, no, I jumped over one. Slicha, aval zehu alidei ha'yigia bozeh. That doesn't alter the fact that it came through effort. For example, כששמסייגע על איזה עניין שכלי, ואחר כך בוא לו פיסויים הו עניין שכלי. So the Rebbe said, let's go down now from Riyah to Chokhmah, let's go down into more simple elements, when you're sometimes struggling to understand a certain concept in learning. Yeah? And you're learning, and all of a sudden you've got the information, but your mind doesn't really grasp and appreciate properly the point. So you work harder and you struggle, and then you see that it's not going, and then all of a sudden it does. All of a sudden you get that's what's called in Chassidus the Borach HaMavrik, the flash of the lightning, the flashes. So that's that comes also in a form of pisoim, of suddenness. But the Rebbe says that that's in the inyan of seichel, but that's a follow-up from when he has made an effort. He's struggled very hard. You can't say that came from above on its own. Yeah, mi'atzmai meaning of the word automatically. It comes precisely through his efforts. In other words, when you sit down, for example, at a difficult thesis or a piece of, I was learning your day about a difficult shach or something like that, you're sitting there and you're working at it, and you come to a feeling that it's not going, and then you work really hard and you go back over it again, take what you do know and you try to put in. All of a sudden you get the revelation of it in the form at least of a profound nakuda, which later opens itself up. Then it's shy to say that you came to that through a seder masuda of using your powers, and then all of a sudden it came as a sudden revelation. But that doesn't mean that it was given to you milmaila. If it wasn't given to you milmaila, why does it come pisoim? In seichel, things don't happen suddenly. I mean, they happen according to reason. So it wasn't a case that all of a sudden, suddenly you do get it. That would have come suddenly. The Rebbe said that's only because it's a very deep thing. Why are you bothered? Why can't you quite get at it? Because it's a deep inyan. It's a profound and challenging matter, and therefore you're struggling with it. The reason it comes that comes suddenly, it dafki because it's a dova amok. The seichel she'ena amok kokach, I mean, all seichelim in Torah are amok, but a seichel which is not so deep, arihu bo b'seidav hadroga. It comes in an ordered way downwards into your mind. Mibchinas chokhmah shebekeser lekeser shebechokmah, and shebo b'chinas chokhmah gluya. I don't know if you've got any members here of the group who learned in Avram Zokin, but over there was a big arichas where the Rebbe explained that there's two madregas, Chokhmah Shebekeser, what he said that's the union of Chokhmah Stimua, that's Chokhmah how it is in Arich, that's Chokhmah Mamish in the level of Keser, and in the Koich HaIsanefesh we saw that was a Koich HaMaskil, but that's a Koich Hiyudi. What a Hiyudi means, a general all-potential power, which doesn't produce any details, but the details come from that in an even from Shaloi Be'erech. They come out of that, and that's called Chokhmah Shebekeser. In Mamela, that's called the Koich HaMaskil. So that's where all Sichlim begin. But when you're working with a seichel which is not so deep, then you make an effort, and then from Chokhmah Shebekeser, from Koich HaMaskil, it goes down to Keser Shebe Chokhmah. And we spoke over there Bariches in Avram Zokein, there was a whole big beer over there. As no doubt some of you remember, we call Kesher B'Chochma is already a lower level. That's Kesher inside Chochma. So when I say inside, that's like the Makif of the Etzem Sphiras HaChochma. That's the Kesher HaProti, how it is in the Koyches HaNefesh to Chochma. And the Rebbe over there explained that when you're learning a Inyan, which is about to reveal itself, in the Baruch HaMavrik, you already sense it, even before the actual sudden dot occurs to you, you begin to feel that you're getting into this thing. You begin to feel a sensitivity that you're about to get this, and you realize there's something very deep here, and you realize what you might call the rectitude of the matter. You know that you're on the right path and that this is going to be the right thing. But you just can't express it yet, and you can't even say that you've got it in the form of a clear appearance. And the Rebbe called that Kesher Sheba Chochma. That's like a sort of a deep awareness of the real meaning before it actually tells you what the real meaning is. And he said that that's already a Kesher Proti. That's already a more specific Kesher, which produces you later the Inyan, not like Chochma Sheba Kesher, but that's Koyach Ayuli, which is a much more withdrawn and general potential point altogether. So it goes with the Seder, it comes from Koyach HaMaskil down to Kesher Shebachachma, where that's the deep awareness of the matter before it actually reveals itself. And Shebo B'Chachma Gluya. Now Chachma Gluya means the Baruch HaMavrik, the appearance of the dot and the Nakuda of the Seichel in your mind, to the point that you can say, well, now I've got it. Ukamation is Boil Yil, Bediba Masra Avram, Avram Zokein. But there's a very big and a very informative passage that we learn over there. I'm going to get to that. Mashain Kain, he said, Seichel Omuk, Bo Bederach Dilug, Mipchinas Kesher Shebachachma, Lachachma HaGluya. Zeu Shebo Pisay. The Rebbe said something which is a Seichel Omuk, it's so profound that Kesher Shebachachma, which is this Kesher Proti, to the awareness, well, that can grasp it, because awareness and being aware that something is about to come and brightness of it, that even something very profound you can sense. But he said in order to get that into Seichel Golui, that's like almost like an Ein Aroi thing. When the Seichel is not profound, then Kesher Shebachachma feeds directly into your Chachma Gruya, into your Nakuda. Over where the Teuchen of the thing, the whole point of it, and the whole inner message, is a very profound thing. And because it's so profound, then Kesher Shebachachma can be aware of it. Or before it to feed it into Chachma Gruya, it can only do that like it throws it to you in an unordered way. It sort of comes with a jump. And all of a sudden you get this tremendous idea, and you say, oh, Kaval, I didn't really realize, what this was all about. And even now I'm still mind-boggled. And therefore it comes in the form of Pisoim, due to the profundity of matter. Not because there's any fault in the mensch, but due to the profundity of the matter, from the feeding point, it can't come in a normal feeding way. It has to sort of jump at you in a sudden way. So therefore, that's because of the amkus of the Seichel. Therefore, it comes from the Indian from Kesher Shebachachma into Chachma Gluya. In other words, that it makes what would normally have been a relatively ordered thing, it has to come in a sudden way, because it's more profound than what these normal kelim can take. And therefore it comes suddenly. Says the Rebbe, but that's normally in the Indian of when you're working in your Seichel in a normal way. Avim Mikol Mokim, he said, had you not made that what's called in other Maimorim, Isarush Talatata, had you not struggled with the whole thing, then you wouldn't get to that point where it'll appear to you suddenly, because you're so far away from it that it's not going to appear to you not suddenly and not unsuddenly.
Does it only come from Milamaila?
Yeah? No. This is not coming Milamaila. This is coming B'derech Yo Yigiyah.
Oh, so Pitayim it comes from your
Yeah. Pitayim also is not coming Milamaila. But because of the profundity of the matter, it sort of jumps at you. But it was done through Yo Yigiyah. Dafki through Yo Yigiyah. Kol Mokim Hazeh Al Yidei Yigiyah Say Dafki. Ubedugma Kazois. in a similarity to that, גם כן מבחינת ריאה דחוכמה. אלא שהוא במדרגה נייlis בעין הריך. Aber in the inning van ריאה דחוכמה, it's incomparably higher than that. In other words, what we said up to now is normal usage of the mind. People struggle with sikhlium, and they get them. So they get them from originally from koyach masculine, that goes down into the koyach hazeh, and then through your yigiyah you make it clear, and it's given. It appears to you. Well, it's given to you. You work at it, and you got it. So even when it comes pisaim, also you got it, but you got it in a way that it had to spring at you because it's too deep to come in the normal case. Oh, but that's all a Seder Masuda of Seichel Bilvad. Similar to that, in a similar way, it occurs in Riyah de Chachma, but in a much higher and ein rechtiker higher way. V'yeshloi, magam kein. The beginner's Riyah, hu ba mimayla. So the Rebbe said that here we have to say that the inyan from Riyah is that which comes mil mayla. V'hainu dal etzem inyan ai samtus ein shayek yegiyah al ze atzmai ki im bo mil mayla pisoim. Now what did he put in the expression yesh lema gam kain? The beginner's Riyah I bo mil mayla. I mean, we're just talking about things not coming mil mayla. Was it the gam kain? We have to assume that the gam kain is referring to what he said earlier, that Avarabba also comes from Umayla. There are other things which come from Umayla. So this also comes from Umayla. But, and why? He said, because to reach this level of Hisamtus, that you mamish live the matter, and it becomes emes in your being, which is usually the pu'ula of seeing, mamish, well, that can't be achieved in a way that you reached it with your effort. That's darkly given to you in Umayla. Einu shayach yegiyah al ze atzmei. I mean, yegiyah prior to that, yeah, but yegiyah only takes you to a certain point. On that actually samtus of the re'iyah, it's not shayach yo yegiyah, ki im bo mil maila pisaim. And there comes mil maila pisaim, all of a sudden you feel that you got this re'iyah, but that comes pisaim for a similar reason. And maybe that's also part of that gam kain that the Rebbe said, that to a certain extent, it's also a inyan which comes pisoy, and that's due to the great einarichness of it. Like we saw even in Seder Vadroga, something can jump from one madrega to the other because of its profundity. So here it can come in a way of suddenness because of the einarich part of it, and it's not something that you really reach through your yegiyah. Whatever, it's got to come at some point, and it just comes once you've done everything that you can do. But it's not to be compared to that seichel ha'omok that we mentioned just before, which also comes pisaim. Oh, there the yegiyah is in the etzem hasoga. It's just that he didn't quite have the hasoga, but then he went through the different stages of it, and it came to him, albeit with a jump. But that was only due to the difficulty of the seichel. Always said kan ala ria atzmo, on this seeing, as it were, this hisamtus, and this observation of the whole matter. Einu shayach yegiyah ki im bo pisoim mil maila. Here the suddenness, because it's really coming from beyond you altogether. Oh, there the suddenness is only because of the profundity of the matter. Your mind is really reaching at it, but it's just a little bit beyond you, it therefore jumps at you. Over here, it comes in a form of suddenness and unawareness, almost, because it comes milmaila. And so therefore, at that particular moment, due to Hashgachos Yisborach, the Eivisha decides to give it to you. He decides at that moment that this is the moment that you're worthy of it, and so therefore all of a sudden you have it, and the man all of a sudden finds himself in another matter. He feels that he's seeing Elikus.
So why what you just said, why did you open the whole class by saying that the Adar now that it'll be step by step, not suddenly like it says here?
No, I didn't say that at all. I was talking about the inyan for Mahus. I said that we see here the inyan for Mahus. I don't think you paid, maybe you didn't get the point of what I was saying. Maybe you didn't listen carefully, or you didn't catch. Anyway, I said, Kan, Araria Achma, Eno Shak Yagir, Ki Im Bo Pisaim milmaila. In other words, both of them come pisoim, but they're for different reasons. The suddenness has got a different basis to it. Avol davke nonetheless, even so, it's davke le'achar hakdoma, after the introduction, v'yagia ba'asoris hashlila. The first way you have to go through that negation power of the mind, u'behakora, and you reach the inyan of das, which is the inyan of hakora, but that's more in the etzem moyach, in the etzem seichel. Ushaloi, now here's the important pitch line, b'poel mamish. He said, Ushaloi yinotake datoi mi'ainyan, that he must not take his mind off the matter. Yinotek means to cut away. You must not cut away your mind from this matter. Zeh t'nai ikari. This is a principal condition. Shaloi yinotek datoi mizeh, that he must not take his mind off it. V'yeh makusha tomid bo'inyan b'tmidius mat. You have to be all the time bound up in this matter with a continuality the whole time. The oz bali pisei milmaila der leig fun isamtus. Now the in Yiddish der leig, that's a very difficult thing to translate into, even in the Lashon Kodesh. Leig means the laying down, literally. Leig means like the settled appearance of a thing. So what the Rebbe means is that we call Chochmah in general, it's called a hanocha. A hanocha is like a seeing form of assumption, that you just say, well, I'm aware of this, and I know that this is the way it is. That's called leig. When you say, they once asked the Rebbe Rashab, why was he so against the Tzionis, as an example. And he said, Azay leitzich by me. He said, that's how it is. That's how it appears and rests in my mind, from above. Azay leitzich by me. In other words, that's the way the higher echelons of my mind tell me. that's what it is. Leig is like an appearance of something settling, albeit it's a very high and a very edel matter. But nonetheless, it lays down into your mind, let's see. The leig. So he said, all of a sudden you become gifted with this inner truth and this living truth in such a way that it settles in your mind, and you say, oh yes, this is the way I am, this is the way it is, this is the way I am, and how do you say, this is the way we're going to live from now on. And he said, that comes suddenly, and that's the inyan from Yisamtus by way of leig, the leig from Yisamtus. That's a very amazing statement. However, says the Rebbe, the principal practical condition is that you've got to keep hacking away. You've got to keep the whole time having your mind on this matter, and you've got to be working at it, and not allow yourself to be attracted away to all sorts of other matters. So that's really quite a piece of work. That a man should be makusha in a certain inyan the whole time, then you get your reward. What's your reward? Boing, all of a sudden you begin to live that way, and you begin to see things completely differently, and you yourself become a living example to your own self of that matter. And that's the inyan of his hantus. If so, then it's similar to that revelation of what we spoke about, the Avarabba. The Kemoy Avarabba bo milmaila ali de akdomus aveda pnimius aveda pnimius the moyotale. Just like Avarabba comes from somebody who's davened a lot and he's made a lot of effort in aveda pnimius of moyach and leiv, in other words, connecting, bringing the moyach into the leiv. Kemoy kain ario, the ria de chochma, bo milmaila alidei, through an introduction, akdoma of yegia basogasa shlila. Omikol mokim einam doim ezelazeh. Nonetheless, they're not comparable one to the other. The be'avarabba hare ayegia hi bedor she'eino shayecho klal la'gilu shachar. Avarabba comes from the etzem and neshama, and when it comes out the etzem and neshama is kosher l'mayla in elokus. And it comes from inyonim, how do you call it, how the etzem and the shoma feeds things into the body, but not that the mensch actually gains them. So therefore, when you're working in your Avodah Pnimiyas, Avodah al-Pi understanding and through Moyach V'Lev, you're playing in a different ball game. Avodah is something that is beyond the whole possibility of your Avodah can come inside your own Avodah. So when you're given all of a sudden that matana milmaila, it didn't really come as a direct follow from your avodah. It's just that had you not done that avodah, then they wouldn't have given it to you. And that's like we said, similar to we find Benegir to the Gilui on Shavuos after the Sfiras Oima. It's brought down that the Gilui on Shavuos is what's called the Shar Hanun, the Shar Hanun Gufa. It's what's called the Gilui HaKesef of Shar Hanun, the 50th gateway of Bina. That's a very high madrega. It's got a little bit to do with Purim also. There was the Chamishim Amo of rather doubtful figure called, not doubtful, a rather gruesome figure called Haman, that he built this thing called, whatever it was, the Chamishim Amor. Also he wanted to get up into the sin of Chamishim, but he only got into the Chitzanis of it, into the Pnimis he didn't get. And he got into the Pnimis, so therefore he ended up in the Chamishim, not the. But anyway, however, the Indian is that there are certain things that we can prepare, everything we can prepare, even though we can't really reach it through that preparation. Had we not made that preparation, we wouldn't have been given the matana. And the same thing, our counting of the Sfiras Ha'ima is in the 49 gateways, and that's Shalei Ba'era to the 50th gateway, which is given on Shavuot. Shalei Ba'era. But had we not done that preparation, he wouldn't give it. Once we've done the preparation, he's prepared to give it, but it remains Ba'ika Amatona after you prepared the ground, you might say. But not that you worked up into the Shara Chamishi Mapnimi of Bina that gives Mishkala on Shavuos. You didn't. You did what's good, and then you got it. So the same with Avarabba. When you work in Veda Pnimiyas, Bina Amoyach, Vahalei, V'Ka'itz, you're doing very good work, and you're preparing like a ground where Hashem can give that matana, should it be seen in His eyes to give it. But not that you worked into that. Hashem, we're going to say in the Riyah de Chochmah, you mamish work into that field. But there's certain parts of it that you can't really get through that, but you worked into it, into that general, what you might call league, to use an expression, and therefore the perfection of it is given to you. And that's the difference. I always said, Mamela Hagila Davaraba, Harize Gila Mumaila, Befina Sisarusa Deela, Livod. And when we say Livod, we mean only on the actual giving. That's an Isarutale. Over the mensch made a tremendous Isarutale Tata. It's just that the Isarutale Tata is not Be'eret the Isarutale Eila. Avo Beria de Chochma, Haraya Yegia, he binyonim Ashayochim Eileho. Then the Yegia is in inyonim of Seicho, and in Seicho Gufa, Lamaila Mia Seicho, in the inyonim of Beetle Kala Seicho V'chulu, like we saw earlier, and the Ika Beetle is the inyon of the Yegia, Vahamaviyim, and the Yegia in the Hasogasa, Shlila, Dafki, going up into things which are beyond direct Hasoger. And he said that Shinyonim Hashayochim Eleya, Vamaviyim Es Bechinas Hariyah de Chochma. Hainu, Hasogas Shlila, like we said, the going up into higher and beyond your understanding. The Yediyas HaFloa, and the knowledge of the way in which Hashem is withdrawn from the elements. Ve'akore, that's what he does, the recognition of that in the feeling of the mind, which is called Hakora. V'yais kashrus tamidi, and the being bound over the whole time, but that's a practical condition. Shekol eile heimo inyonim ashayochim umeviim lidei b'chinas riyah de chochmah. In other words, they're not foreign to riyah de chochmah, they're getting very close. Like we saw, hakora and amitius in an area we had to have quite a big bracket for the Rebbe to differ. They're delicate differences. They're not completely different in yonim one from the other altogether. Now, that's a hakora, and there's a uniform ria more, and on a slightly higher level, which is called chokmah v'chulu. But what you've done is you've gone up into that league where it's possible possible for you to be zeicher through your efforts to the inyan from Riyah de Chochma. Im kein harei agilu de Riyah de Chochma hi yoisa harbe bekoyach atzmoi v'yosi mibchinas ahava. I'm not understanding the idea. Riyah de Chochma is more your effort than what ahava Rabbi is. So I mean, how do they say halavai for all Yidden? You know, halavai for all Jews wished and blessed that they should have Riyah de Chochma and ahava Rabbi. Man, it should have everything. But if we're really talking about it in a more specific way, then when you get ahava Rabbi, you got more of a matana. You were more like a makabel. You did a tremendous amount before that, but now you're only a makabel. And here, to a certain extent, your mamish bought on a certain schar, which is korev v'linyana adova atzmi. You didn't quite make that, but you got close to it because you went through the same basic inyanim which are similar in their mahus. Dainu, this deep sensitivity of the mind, but then you go up into a level of the mind which is even beyond sensitivity, and it's mamish living the thing in a form of ishamtus, that you get milmaila, but you got very close on your own effort. You just prepared the ground. That's where you made a certain grounding on which you're given a matan. Hine kol zeh hu mishi higir l'mayla madrege zu de pinus Riyah de Chochma. He said, all this is somebody that he reached that inyan of Riyah de Chochma, v'liyah is b'pinus shoiv kanal. Yeah, that he came through that to the inyan of shoiv. Avo, and here's our particular, did I miss out on anything? No. Avo is a misha loihi giya adayin l'madrege zu. What about somebody who didn't reach this tremendous level of Riyah de Chochma? Arei shoiv, masha mischazi b'tero mitzvahs. You're turning away from the evil and doing the good. That's b'der klal mitzvah shleis aseh, mitzvah aseh, and all kol hakosher imohem. Ube'esha katoiro kol hayom, and learning Torah the whole day. Or it could be that he's a businessman, he has to be busy, but he can still have us in shachas with limud haTorah. Even so, harizeh bekoyach atzmoi kanal. He said then, to a certain extent, the person who didn't reach Riyah de Chochma, he's got more of a schus in a way in the etzem shoiv, because it's all his own work. He hasn't got anything milmaila which is being meir into him and making him the shoiv, but he's working hard at being in a state of shoiv. V'agam shemoel b'zeh rishima shel me'av yirish b'tfila mishum zehu ba v'somera v'seiteiv kol hayom. So the Rebbe gets here onto another point, which I think for this evening we'll leave it at that. Here the Rebbe said that somebody who's davened properly with the Ahava V'yira, then Ahava V'yira is the Ratzoi. But he said there's a certain Rishima of the Ahava V'yira which remain over after davening, and they give him a koyach to move into Shoyi. And that's an important point we'll deal with Be'ez Hashem in the coming classes, even though it's not mamish foolish here, but it's understood. And that is that Rotzei v'Shoiv are not two foreign things that they like to get one to the other. But Dafke the inyan from Rotzei gives certain things into the Shoiv, even though just pure Rotzei is not Shoiv. On the contrary, it's the opposite movement altogether. But there's certain things in the Rotzei what they help later with the Shoiv. And to a certain extent, there's a certain touch-off inside the Rotzei, which could even be said brings to the Shoiv. And that's the Yinif Ahava V'yira, that the fact that he becomes aware of Elokus in a form of Tevekis, which is Ahava, and Yira in the form of a beetle, then Sof Kol Sof, that reflects itself in the Shoiv. Because the Ahava V'yira, they after loving Hashem and fearing Him, in their, what you might call their pureness, they're saying, I want to go out and be dovik in there. So, Ahava means that you're devoted, you're given over to Hashem. So in that devoted and given over, the Eish tells that there's a certain nitzotz which says, thank you, I appreciate you being given over to me, but you don't realize that being given over to me really means kach for kach. Whatever, like deep inside the Rotzei, he senses to a certain extent a certain trace of the shoiv. But the Rotze doesn't make the shoyiv. Without the way to B'koyach Atzmei, he will remain in a certain, abstractity, sort of lost. Day the Indian of Kabbalah Seh, which we're going to deal with as we go, and he makes the Indian a shoyiv, but it helps him what's Kibud the Nakuda Pneumius, the Rashima, what we might call what remains over from the Av, and that says you're devoted and you're cloven. If you're devoted and you're cloven, then, that implies something. So then the Shoyev said, oh yes, that implies that we've got to get moving. If I remember that word, that implies something, that's very important. And that comes in the Av itself, and that helps him with the Inyan HaShoyev. So we'll see that all these madrigas, one way or another, they all somehow or another, if they are emistic, they all click together, and ultimately they all, in a way, assist one the Adar, and that's the way it should be. It's a pneumius advorim. All inyonim ultimately come back to what does Hashem really want of us. That's what it comes back to. Not what we want from Him, but what does He want of us. And that's the big atzmistik and akuda of Chassidus. Okay, so we'll hold there for this evening. It's so who was my volunteer? It's and if you in a few minutes' time you may drop off, I'll just show you what I want to be done. And so go ahead with your chazorah and have a good week. And holding by Shabbos Mavochim. Yeah, so this is what you might call the real pitch, the real Makor, where Shabbos Mavochim Adar Sheni, but that's where we meet up with all the how do you call it, the big Giluim, the big time of Purim and things leading into Pesach, etc., in the Sugi of the Gemara.